Oh, you're here. Good. I've got another betrayal story for you. Sit down. I worked 2 jobs every single day just to keep a roof over our heads. But when I came home one night, sweat still clinging to me, the papers on the counter told me the truth. She had sold the house. My name's David Miller. I'm 34 and I live in a small town in Ohio. Every morning, I drag myself out of bed before sunrise to clock into the warehouse. I spend hours stacking boxes, hauling freight, sweating under the hum of fluorescent lights. Then I head home just long enough to change shirts and swallow something quick before heading out again. This time to the bar. I pour drinks, scrub tables, and take abuse from customers, stumbling back in close to midnight. That's been my life for years. Hard, unforgiving, exhausting. But I told myself it was worth it. Worth it for my wife, Emily, and our son, Jacob. When I saw their faces, I could convince myself that the sacrifices made sense, that the calluses and missed dinners meant something. At least, that's what I used to believe. It hadn't always been this heavy. Back when Emily and I first met, life felt like a possibility. She was fire, laughter, and stubbornness rolled into one. Her parents hated me from day one. Said I wasn't good enough, that I had no real future. Robert, her father, would sneer whenever I walked in. Linda, her mother, never missed a chance to remind Emily she deserved stability. And Claire, her older sister, treated me like I'd stolen something from their family. But none of it mattered at first. Emily and I were inseparable. We didn't care if the world thought we didn't match. We knew we did. I still remember our wedding day. We didn't have money for anything fancy, just a rented hall, cheap decorations, and a lot of heart. Emily smiled through every minute, her hand gripping mine like she'd never let go. I believed we could take on anything. For a while, we did. A year later, Jacob was born. Holding him in my arms for the first time, I thought surely this would change things. Surely her parents, as grandparents, would see the love we had and accept me. I thought the baby would soften their hearts. I was wrong. If anything, their contempt sharpened. Robert made comments about how Jacob would need real role models. Linda fussed over Emily, whispering that she'd tied herself down too young. Claire compared me to Marcus, Emily's old boyfriend, the golden boy with money, charm, and a family her parents adored. They brought him up at every chance, like dangling bait. It didn't matter how many diapers I changed, how many hours I worked, or how many times I proved I was staying no matter what. To them, I'd never measure up. And the cruelest part? They didn't just attack me. They poisoned Emily against me, drip by drip. At first, I brushed it off. I told myself she was stronger than that. Emily would look me in the eyes and say, "You're the one I chose." I believed her. I clung to that belief because if I didn't, all the cracks would start showing, and cracks did come. Subtle ones at first. She stopped asking me how my day was. Stopped laughing at my stupid warehouse stories. Family dinners at her parents' house became minefields. Robert would mock me for working like a mule with nothing to show for it. Linda would sigh dramatically and bring up Marcus's new promotion. Claire would give Emily these looks, smug little smirks that said, "You could have had better." I'd sit there, chewing food that turned to sand in my mouth, pretending I didn't hear. Emily would try to smooth it over, but the damage was always done. The car ride home was silent. And somewhere deep down, I knew those silences weren't just exhaustion. They were building walls between us. I tried harder after that. Worked more shifts, picked up overtime, figured if I could provide enough, it would silence her parents once and for all. But it never did. Instead, the more I gave, the further away she seemed to drift. Some nights I'd come home and she'd already be asleep, curled up with her back turned, like she didn't even notice I was gone. Other nights, I'd catch her staring off into nothing, her phone buzzing with messages she wouldn't let me see. I kept telling myself it was nothing, that we were solid, that love could survive poison. But deep down, a gnawing fear took root. What if I was wrong? What if I were the only one still holding on while she was already halfway gone? I tried to ignore it. I held Jacob tighter, convinced myself everything I did was for him. I thought Emily would eventually see the truth, that no matter what her family said, I was the one here, fighting every single day. But the distance in her eyes told me something else. I worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat, but no matter how much I gave, I could feel it. The weight pressing down wasn't just from the hours I worked. It was from a marriage slowly cracking under the strain of voices that weren't mine. And sooner than I wanted to believe, those cracks would shatter everything. But then came that family dinner, the night their poison stopped being background noise and became a blade press against my throat. We drove over to her parents' place in silence. Jacob sat in the back seat, humming to himself, kicking his little sneakers against the chair. He was 7, old enough to sense tension even if he didn't understand it. Emily kept her eyes on the road, her hands locked tight around the wheel, and I sat there trying to swallow the lump in my throat. Her parent house was everything ours wasn't. Polished with floors, spotless white curtains, the smell of money and comfort dripping off the walls. I hated that house. From the first day I stepped inside, I knew I'd never belong there. Tonight was no different. Robert opened the door, his voice booming. "Well, look who finally made it. You must be tired, David, working 2 jobs and all." His smirk told me it wasn't admiration. It was the same old mockery, wrapped in fake politeness. Linda swept Emily into a hug, cooing over her like she was still a child. Her eyes flicked over to me, cold and sharp, before landing on Jacob with a sweetness so fake it made my stomach turn. "There's my grandson," she chirped, "growing so fast. He'll need strong examples in his life." The way she lingered on strong made it clear she didn't mean me. We sat at the table, the smell of roasted chicken and garlic potatoes filling the air. I'd picked up my fork, but my appetite was gone before the first bite. The conversation started politely, with small talk about Jacob's school, the weather, and Emily's new haircut. But it didn't take long for the knives to come out. "So, David," Robert said, leaning back in his chair, "how's the warehouse treating you? Still lifting boxes all day?" He chuckled like it was a punchline. "Real men don't need to kill themselves with 2 jobs just to pay the bills, you know. They figure out how to get ahead." I clenched my jaw. I could feel Emily tense beside me, but she said nothing. Jacob looked between us, confused, his little hands fidgeting with his fork. Linda swooped in next, her voice sugary, but her words laced with venom. "You know, I ran into Marcus at the grocery store the other day. Such a sweet boy. He's doing so well, bought a new car, just got promoted at the bank." She glanced at Emily with that mother-to-daughter conspiratorial smile. He always did have such a good head on his shoulders. The kind of man who knows how to provide. I stabbed a piece of chicken just to keep from slamming my fist on the table. Marcus. Always Marcus. The ghost they paraded around like he was still an option. Claire, sitting across from us with her arms folded, leaned in. "Honestly, Emily, I don't know how you do it. You deserve someone who makes life easier, not harder." Her eyes flicked to me, and she smirked. "But hey, love's blind, right?" That was it. The room went hot, my blood roaring in my ears. I pushed back my chair so hard it screeched against the floor. Jacob jumped at the sound. "You know what?" I snapped, my voice louder than I meant. "I've had enough. Every single time I come here, it's the same damn thing. You people think you can tear me down, compare me to Marcus, and tell Emily she deserves better? Fine. You hate me. I get it. But I won't sit here and let you poison her and humiliate me in front of my son." The room froze. Robert's smirk dropped for the first time. Linda's eyes narrowed, and Claire just tilted her head like she'd won something. I turned to Emily. "Say something," I demanded. My voice cracked, raw from holding back for too long. She stared down at her plate, her lips pressed tight, her hands twisting the napkin in her lap. No defense. No word in my favor. Just silence. That silence cut deeper than anything her family could have said. I shoved my chair back and stood. Come on, Jacob. We're leaving. Jacob looked at me with wide eyes, then at Emily, torn. She gave him a small nod, like it was okay, and my chest caved in. I took his hand and walked him out, my pulse hammering with fury and shame. The night air outside was cool, but it did nothing to cool the fire in my chest. I strapped Jacob into a seat, climbed into the car, and sat there gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. My son's voice broke the silence. Daddy, why are they so mean to you? I swallowed hard. Because they don't understand, buddy. They don't see what I do for us. He nodded, his little brow furrowed, and leaned back in his seat. I drove us home, headlights cutting to the darkness, my mind replaying every insult, every smirk, every second of Emily's silence. When we got home, I tucked Jacob into bed. He hugged me a little tighter than usual. I love you, Daddy, he whispered. I love you too, champ. Hours later, Emily came home. I was still awake, sitting on the couch in the dark. She walked past me without a word, straight to the bedroom. No apology, no defense, not even a glance. And in that silence, I knew something had shifted. Something in her was breaking away from me, and I couldn't stop it. That night, I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, wondering how much longer I could keep fighting alone. That dinner haunted me for days. The way Robert's words cut, Linda's smile dripped poison. Claire's smirk burned into my head, but none of it hurt as much as Emily's silence. She didn't defend me, not once. And a week later, the cracks split wide open. At first, it was subtle. Emily stopped looking me in the eye. She'd move around the house like a ghost, barely speaking. When I tried to kiss her goodbye before work, she'd turn her cheek. Our conversation shrank into clipped sentences. Yeah, fine. I don't know. Always distracted, always somewhere else. The nights were worse. I'd come home from the bar around midnight, and sometimes she wasn't even there. She'd stroll in hours later, claiming she'd gone out with friends. No details, no warmth, just cold distance. I wanted to believe her, but deep down, something rotted inside me. Then came the bills. I sat at the kitchen table one morning, my lunch pail beside me, half dead from lack of sleep, and opened a stack of envelopes. Past due, water, electricity, mortgage. My hands trembled. I was working 80 hours a week. How the hell were we behind? When I asked Emily, she waved it off. You must have forgotten. Don't stress about it. But I knew I'd paid them. Every check, every dime, carefully balanced. Still, she brushed me aside, her eyes locked on her phone instead of me. The pressure built. I'd be hauling crates at the warehouse, sweat dripping into my eyes, and my chest would ache, not just from the labor, but from the gnawing sense that something was being pulled out from under me. And then it happened. It was a Tuesday night. I dragged myself home after a double shift, my hands blistered from the bar sink, my clothes still smelling of beer and grease. The house was quiet, too quiet. Jacob was asleep upstairs, the TV was off, and Emily wasn't in sight. But on the counter, under the glow of the kitchen light, sat a folder. My name is on the tab. I flipped it open. Real estate documents. Sale agreement. Emily's signature, clear and bold. The house, our house, sold. My knees almost buckled. I grabbed the counter just to stay upright. My chest pounded like I'd run a marathon. I flipped through page after page, every one screaming betrayal. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a threat. This was the final. Emily. My voice cracked the silence, sharp and desperate. She appeared from the hallway, arms crossed, her face pale but hard. What is this? I slammed the papers on the counter. Her eyes filled instantly, tears brimming, but she didn't deny it. I couldn't take it anymore, David. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. You sold our house? Without telling me? Without even asking? She covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. You don't understand. They wouldn't stop. My parents. Every day, every call, telling me I deserved better, that I was trapped, that I made the wrong choice marrying you. They wore me down. I stepped closer, my voice trembling between rage and heartbreak. Emily, we have a son. Jacob lives here. You think he deserves to wake up one morning and find out his home is gone because your parents can't stand me. Her sobs grew harder. I just wanted it to stop. I thought maybe if I listened, if I did what they wanted, it would finally end. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to rage at her for betraying everything I'd killed myself to hold together. But then I looked up the stairs, imagined Jacob sleeping peacefully, unaware that his whole world was being ripped apart. My anger cracked into something else. No, I said, forcing my voice low, steady. We are not letting them win. Not like this. Emily lowered her hands, her face streaked with tears. What do you mean? I grabbed the papers, held them up between us. You want to fix this? Then we fight for ourselves. Not them. Not what they want. Us. We go to therapy. We sit in a room with someone who isn't them, and we figure this out. Because if we don't, Emily, this marriage is over. Her breath hitched, panic flashing in her eyes. Therapy? My parents will never. I cut her off. This isn't about them. That's the problem. You've let it be about them for too long. If you want any chance at saving this, we keep it between us. No one else, especially not them. She hesitated, her lips trembling, torn between fear and desperation. Finally, she nodded. Okay. But we can't tell them. They'll never forgive me if they find out. I let out a shaky breath, relief and bitterness tangled in my chest. Then we don't tell them. But Emily, this is it. This is the last chance. If you want to choose them, do it now. If you want to choose us, it starts with that therapist's office. For a long moment, she just stood there, staring at me through tears, the weight of years pressing down on both of us. Then, finally, she whispered, I'll go. The paper still sat on the counter between us, mocking me, proof of how close we'd come to losing everything. But as I looked at Emily, broken, scared, for once admitting the truth, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Fragile. Dangerous. But hope all the same. The next week, we sat in the therapist's office, strangers of honesty, but desperate for something to hold us together. The room was small, plain. 2 worn-out armchairs, a love seat, and a desk tucked in the corner, stacked with folders. A soft lamp lit the space, its glow doing little to ease the tension between us. Emily sat stiff beside me, arms crossed, her eyes fixed on the floor. I kept my hands locked together in my lap, knuckles aching, trying to keep from exploding. Across from us sat Dr. Keller, a calm woman in her 40s with glasses perched low on her nose. She looked at us like she'd seen couples just as broken, and worse, sit exactly where we sat. So, she said gently, why don't we start with why you're here? Emily beat me to it. Because he thinks my parents are ruining our marriage. Her voice was clipped defensive. They're not. They just want the best for me. I turned my head slowly, staring at her. The best? They made you sell our house behind my back, Emily. Her arms tightened across her chest. I didn't do it for them. I did it because I thought maybe it would finally stop the fighting. You never stand up to them. You just let it happen. The words hit like a punch. Dr. Keller didn't flinch. David, what do you think she means? I exhaled slowly, the weight of years pressing down on me. I work 2 jobs. I barely sleep. I break my back to keep us afloat. And every time I step foot in her parents' house, they tear me apart. Call me a failure. Compare me to Marcus. Say Emily deserves better. And yeah, I've ignored it. I thought if I stayed quiet, if I just kept working, they'd stop. But they didn't. They got louder. And I'm terrified they're going to convince her to walk away completely. Emily shifted. guilt flashing across her face before she buried it. I'm not going to walk away. But her voice cracked, like she didn't fully believe her own words. That was session 1. Defensive walls, words thrown like darts, silenced when the truth got too close. But we kept going back. By session 3, cracks in Emily's defenses started to show. Dr. Keller would ask simple questions, and Emily's rehearsed lines would fall apart. Emily, the therapist asked one morning, when your mother compares David to Marcus, how does that make you feel? Emily's hands twisted in her lap. Embarrassed. Angry. Like I don't have control over my own life. And what do you do when that happens? I laugh. I pretend it doesn't bother me. And why do you think you do that? Emily's eyes filled, and for the first time, she admitted it. Because if I argue with them, they turn it around on me. They say I'm ungrateful. They say I don't love them. They guilt me until I give in. Hearing her say it out loud was like a door creaking open after years of being stuck shut. Week by week, we chipped away at the wall her parents had built around her. She started to recognize the patterns. Robert's condescending advice, Linda's sighs and guilt trips, Claire's digs disguised as jokes. For years, she'd swallowed them whole, convincing herself they were just normal family dynamics. In that office, she finally said the words. It's manipulation. It's not love. It's control. For me, those sessions weren't easy either. Dr. Keller turned the questions on me, and I didn't get to hide. David, she said one afternoon, why didn't you push back against her parents sooner? I swallowed hard, staring at the carpet, because I thought ignoring them was better than fighting. I didn't want to make it worse for Emily. I figured if I took the hits quietly, she'd see I was protecting her from the conflict. But instead, I made her feel like I wasn't standing with her. Emily's head turned toward me, eyes wide. She whispered. That's exactly how it felt. The air went heavy in the room. For the first time, I realized my silence hadn't been noble. It had been abandonment, in its own way. Not intentional, but real. It wasn't until the 6th session that the breakthrough came. Dr. Keller asked, Emily, when you think about the life you want, whose voice do you hear in your head first? Yours or your parents'? Emily froze. Her lips parted, but no words came. Tears welled up, one slipping down her cheek. My parents, she finally whispered. Always theirs. I don't even know what my own voice sounds like anymore. I reached for her hand. For the first time in years, she didn't pull away. She turned to me, her face streaked with tears but her eyes clear. David, I've been living in their shadow. Every choice I made was to keep them happy, and I almost destroyed us because of it. My throat burned. So, who do you want to choose now? Her grip tightened. Us. I want to choose us. For the first time in years, I believed her. We walked out of that office into the cool evening air, the sun dipping low behind the buildings. For once, Emily didn't rush to check her phone. She didn't look over her shoulder, waiting for her parents to call. She walked beside me, her hand still in mine, like we were on the same team again. The papers still existed. The house was still gone. But therapy gave me something I thought I'd lost forever. My wife standing by me, instead of against me. And that terrified her parents more than anything. For the first time in forever, we felt like a team. The therapy sessions weren't easy, but Emily was finally seeing the truth. Her parents weren't guiding her. They were controlling her. For once, she wasn't letting them dictate every move. We even started talking about the future again. New city, fresh start, no strings attached. But when her parents found out, everything exploded. It happened on a Saturday afternoon. Jacob was in the living room building a tower of Legos, while Emily and I boxed up things in the kitchen. The air felt lighter than it had in years. Then came the pounding on the front door. Hard, angry, relentless. Emily froze. My gut dropped. The door burst open before I could even get there. Robert stormed in, face red, fists clenched, with Linda right behind him. What the hell is this? Robert roared, slamming a crumpled piece of paper down on the counter. The sale notice. I stepped forward. This is our house. You don't get a vote. Linda's voice was sharp, cutting through the room. Don't you dare talk to us like that. Emily, what has he done to you? This isn't you. He's manipulating you, making you throw your life away. Emily's hands trembled, but she stayed beside me. Mom, Dad, stop. Robert ignored her, jabbing a finger at me. You've been dragging her down since day one, working like a dog and still never enough. You made her live like this, scraping by, while you puff up your chest pretending you're a man. And now you convinced her to cut ties with us? Not a chance. I felt Jacob press against my leg. He'd wandered in wide-eyed, clutching a Lego in his little fist. His voice was small. Daddy, what's happening? I bent down, pulled him close, my arm around him. It's okay, buddy. I've got you. Emily's face crumpled when she saw Jacob's fear, but Robert kept going, his voice booming. You think you can take my daughter away? You think you can take my grandson away? Over my dead body. I straightened, my chest burning. He's not your pawn. He's our son. And I'm done letting you poison him the way you poisoned Emily. Linda's voice rose to a shrill pitch. We raised her better than this. She had a future until you came along. Marcus isn't her husband. I snapped, my voice shaking with fury. I am. The room shook with shouting. Robert's accusations, Linda's insults, my own voice fighting back. Years of resentment came spilling out all at once. Every unspoken slight, every cruel word, every wound ripped open. And then Emily shouted, Enough! Her voice cracked the air, louder than all of us. The room went silent. Emily stepped forward, her whole body trembling, but her voice steady. This is my life. Mine. You don't own me. You don't control me, and you sure as hell don't get to tell me who to love. I'm done being your puppet. Linda's face went pale. Emily. No, Mom. Emily's voice wavered, but she didn't back down. You've been controlling me since I was a kid. Every decision, every choice, I had to make sure it was what you wanted. And I let it happen, but not anymore. She turned to Robert, tears brimming. Dad, you made me feel like I'd never be enough. You tore down my husband in front of me for years, and I let you make me believe it. But I'm not letting you do it to Jacob. Not one more day. Jacob clung to my side, his little eyes darting between us, confused but sensing the weight of what was happening. Robert's jaw tightened, his face hard as stone. You'll regret this, Emily. Emily lifted her chin. Maybe I will, but at least it'll be my choice, not yours. Silence stretched. The only sound was Jacob's uneven breathing against me. Finally, Robert turned, his movements sharp, grabbing Linda by the arm. Let's go. Linda looked like she wanted to argue, but Robert yanked the door open. Before stepping out, he spat over his shoulder. You're dead to us. The door slammed so hard the walls shook. The silence after was deafening. Jacob buried his face into me, whispering, Daddy, I'm scared. I kissed the top of his head. It's okay, champ. They're gone. Emily stood there, tears streaming down her face. But for the first time, she wasn't broken. She was free. She looked at me, her voice trembling. I meant it, David. I'm choosing us, no matter what it costs. And in that moment, I believed her. For the first time, I saw the woman I'd married all those years ago, the one who chose me against all odds. And now, finally, she was choosing me again. 2 weeks later, our things were packed, and the house that once chained us to her parents was no longer ours. The move wasn't glamorous. We didn't roll into a big suburban dream home with a yard and a picket fence. Instead, it was a cramped 2-bedroom apartment on the edge of a smaller city 3 hours away. The carpets were worn, the paint chipped, and the rent took more of my paycheck than I wanted to admit. But the silence, The lack of Robert's voice, Linda's sighs, Claire's smirks, was worth every square foot we'd given up. The adjustment wasn't easy. Nights were tight. Money is even tighter. I kept both jobs for a while, driving longer commutes, dragging my tired body through warehouse shifts and bar closings. Some days, I wondered if I could really keep this up. But every time I came home, Emily was different. She was present, not glued to her phone, not waiting for her parents' calls. She was there with Jacob, laughing, cooking dinner, and folding laundry while humming under her breath. Simple things, but things I'd forgotten I missed. One evening, I came in late, my back screaming from another double shift, and found her sitting on the couch, phone in hand. She looked like she'd been crying. My heart sank. Did they call? I asked quietly. She shook her head, wiped her eyes, and showed me the screen. Dozens of missed calls. Messages from Linda. Some pleading, some furious. Robert's blunt text demanding she come to her senses. I blocked them, Emily said, her voice small but firm. I sat down beside her, stunned. You blocked them? She nodded, tears welling again. It hurts, David. They're my parents. But if I don't cut them off, they'll never stop. And I won't let them ruin us again. I pulled her into me, holding her while she cried. That choice cost her more than she admitted, but it also gave me back a wife I thought I'd lost for good. Jacob adjusted faster than both of us. In our old house, arguments were background noise. Raised voices, cold silences. It was normal for him. But here, he flourished. His teacher called us in after the first month, saying he was more confident, more focused. At night, he'd sit cross-legged on the floor, telling me about his new friends, his new school, his favorite park around the corner. The fear I'd seen in his eyes during that fight with his grandparents was gone. In its place was a freedom he didn't even realize he'd gained. One Saturday, I watched him build another Lego tower, taller than the one he'd made the night of the fight. He looked up at me with that same proud grin. Daddy, it's the tallest one yet. I smiled, ruffled his hair. Yeah, champ, it's solid. And in that moment, I realized so were we. It wasn't the house that made us a family. It wasn't the hours I bled at the warehouse or the bar. Those things kept us afloat, sure, but they weren't what saved us. What saved us was finally breaking free, cutting the strings that her parents had wrapped around Emily's neck, taking our lives back, no matter the cost. As I sat there, boxes still half unpacked around us, Jacob laughing in the living room and Emily humming in the kitchen, I knew the truth. This home, tiny, imperfect, rented, was more ours than a house I'd nearly killed myself to keep. Because this time, no one else had a say in it. It finally belonged to us. Hey, what would you have done if your in-laws poisoned your partner against you for years? Do you think moving away was the right call, or should Emily have cut ties sooner? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more betrayal stories like this, hit subscribe and stick around for the next one.